Hey everyone, it's Lynette, and today we will be talking about my April and May wrap-up as well as my June TBR. April was a really slow month for me. I only got 2 books read in the month of April. I think that was because I was working my way through Obsidio, which is the 3rd book in the Illuminate Files series. I know it came out back in March and most people had it finished within a few days, but this one took me quite a bit to get through. I found that it drug more in places than the first 2. Obsidio is the 3rd installment in the conclusion of the Illuminate Files series. The Illuminate Files is an outer space intergalactic adventure that revolves around the lives of several different teenagers, Katie and Hannah being the 2 main ones. It's told in a very unique way. It's told through a series of text messages and documents, and every page is just something really unique and different. There's pictures. It's just not told in a traditional format, which is something that I really loved in the first 2 books. However, with Obsidio, there was so many pages like this one. There's so many surveillance footage pages like this one, and I felt like they drug on for a long time. You can see they're written as just like a normal book, but there's way too many of those in here for my liking. I'd much rather read the story through a series of text messages and documents and emails and things like that. So for me, I think that was one of the things that hurt the book. It really slowed down the plot for me, in my opinion. This book went so much slower than the first 2, whereas the first 2 I finished within like 2 days, or I think I even finished Illuminae in like within a night. I mean, I just ate those up. But this one took me quite a few weeks to read, and I think it was because it did read much slower. A lot of the twists and turns in this book I sort of predicted would happen. Yes, they were nice little closure things and wrapped up the story nicely. However, they were predictable and I saw them coming. I think there was only one twist that kind of had me shocked, but it wasn't like a huge shock like it was in the first 2 books. I wish there was more of the murderous, misunderstood AI, which is Aiden. There wasn't a ton of Aiden. I wish there would have been more Aiden. I don't know. This book for me, I gave it 4 stars, and I gave the series as a whole 5 stars. It's one of my all-time favorite series, but this book for me as a whole was only 4 stars, not 5 like the first 2, just for those few little things that just sort of bothered me about it. You can read my full review on this book at my website, which is novelsandhops.com. The last book I read in the month of April is one of my now new favorite books. I cannot wait to see the movie, and the movie coming out is what spurred me and jump-started me to read this book. It's been on my TBR list forever, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was so much fun. I had picked this up about a year ago, and the first couple chapters, I will admit, it's hard to get into. I complained that the writing in this book is super small. So for me, it was just a little bit difficult to get into initially, but once you do, it moves, and it's fast-paced, action-packed all through the entire book. I could not put this down. It was so exciting. I hope that the movie is just as exciting and sticks to the book, because the book, in my opinion, was brilliant. I gave it 5 stars, and again, if you want to read my full review, I do have one up on my website, which is novelsandhops.com. I don't know what got into me in the month of May, but I just flew through books and knocked them off my list. As I mentioned in a past video, my TBR is I'm not buying anything new, so I won't have any new book hauls for you for a few months. Right now, I am just working my way through my bookshelves and reading everything on them that I have yet to read. So I'm slowly chipping away at my massive TBR list, and May, I feel like I definitely made a dent in it. One of my favorite books that I read in the month of May is, of course, A Court of Frost and Starlight. I have a whole video and a whole review that I've done on this, so I'm not going to spend much time. Put it this way, it's Sarah J. Maas. She's my girl. She's my favorite author. I loved this book. This book is not going to be for everyone, and if you want to find out why, you gotta go watch my other video, which I will link down below. Sticking to the theme of Sarah J. Maas, I finally finished Heir of Fire. It took me forever to finish this because this is a honkin' book, but it was great. I loved it. I did find that it did get a little slow in the middle, which I think is why it took me so long, but this book is so detailed. I feel like this was more detailed than the other two. The first two are great and I love them, but this just had like every little thing thought out, every character. I mean, the world that she is building is incredible, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. Another book that I read, I kind of went off my plan of sticking to books on my shelf, but I had this book on my shelf, which is the third Laura Jean book. So I had to read the second one, which I didn't own, so I rented it from the library. But the second one is called P.S. I Still Love You, and I read that one, and I read the third one, which is Always and Forever Laura Jean. These books were so fun. They were so nice. They're just like a nice, warm feeling. That's what these books give you. So I felt like the third one was just a great conclusion of the book. I think by far, though, the second one is my favorite of the series. It has this game where they used to play when they were little, this group of friends, that's the central focus of the books. They used to play this game, kind of like tag, as kids. And that game is sort of the central driving force of the book because they're playing it again now that they're in high school. So that sort of pushes the plot line along. It makes it super easy to read. And I thought it was so much fun, and I loved all the tension. I loved the third one too because I feel like Laura Jean and Peter are definitely getting into more adult type of relationship. They're dealing with more difficult issues together, so I really feel like their relationship has grown and matured in this book. But this was a great conclusion, and I feel like she left it open that if she wanted to write another one while they're in college, I think Jenny Han absolutely could continue on with this. But this is a great series, and if you haven't read To All the Boys I've Ever Loved Before, the series, make sure you read that this summer because in August it will be a Netflix movie. Another contemporary read that I read in the month of May is the book Moxie by Jennifer Matthew. This book is killer. I loved it. It made me want to rage against the patriarchy. I loved it so much. It's such a empowering feminist book. I wish that I had done the things that Vivian did in high school when I was in high school, but I was the shy little kid in high school, so I didn't. But I loved this book so much. It just was so empowering. It was so uplifting. And if you need just a really inspiring book this summer, be sure to pick up Moxie. One of the more confusing books I read this May is a mystery, and I was really looking forward to this. This book came out sometime this year, maybe back in January or February, but that is the book Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I think I gave it 3 stars, and I'll tell you why. It has a really great mystery. It has a mystery from like the 30s that the main characters are trying to solve, and then there's a new mystery that happens in the present timeline that they also have to solve. But it just, nothing was answered. A great mystery, I feel, if it's going to be a series like this one's going to be, it reveals not every answer, but it gives you enough that you want to come back. This, I feel, didn't really give us any answers at the end of the book. It just gave you more questions. Things became more convoluted and confusing. I felt the ending of this was really messy. I am going to read the next book whenever it comes out. I don't know when the release date is for it. But if the next book doesn't blow me away, then I might have to DNF this series, because this one, while the mystery is very intriguing and very interesting, it really needs to start giving me some answers. It needs to leave me wanting more. And this one didn't really. It just left me with more questions and confusion, and I like to have some storylines wrapped up. It didn't have to wrap up everything, but at least give me something. Also in the month of May, I was chipping away at my NetGalley list because it was getting way too long. I had to get some reviews out or I wasn't going to get approved for any more arcs. The first arc that I read on NetGalley was by Jay Kristoff, who is one of the authors of the Illuminae Files series. And his new book, Lifelike, just came out. If you haven't picked it up yet, pick it up. It was so good. I cannot get over how good this book was. First of all, I love Jay Kristoff and his writing style with Amy Kaufman in the Illuminae files, but Jay Kristoff on his own is just as brilliant and just as interesting as a writer, and he's funny. The book, while it was a serious book, had really funny moments and really kind of funny characters. But this is about a futuristic world where there are robots that pretty much do everything. And then there's these robots that have been banned, and they're called lifelikes, which really has a lot of Westworld type vibes with the host and looking like humans. That's pretty much what the lifelikes are. They're robots that look like humans, but, you know, they're becoming conscious, and you have to realize, do you treat them like a robot and like a machine, or do you treat them with the same respect and favor as you would treat a regular human being? So that's the source of conflict in this book. But there's so much more to it. The only thing I will say is that it takes a little bit of time to get used to the different words that he uses. There's different words for robots that are like humans and robots that are like robots, and you know, there's just different terminology that he uses. And he does have a glossary in the beginning of the book, which I really appreciated, but it does take a while to kind of burn that into your brain of what he's talking about. But once you do, the language is no longer a barrier, and the story flows, and it is awesome. So if you haven't checked out that book, I'm pretty sure it's on your shelves right now. So go to your bookstore, go to Amazon, go wherever to where you buy books, and pick up Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. Another NetGalley read that I read in the month of May is Whisper by Lynette Nani. Lynette, that's a great name. Spelled different, but still great name. Whisper was a really interesting sci-fi type book. After I read Lifelike, I was just in the sci-fi type mode. So Whisper was really, really fun. Of course, it has all your generic sci-fi tropes like a secret government agency and keeping people with powers under wraps and weapons and things like that. But I think it was done really, really well and in a refreshing way. I feel like Lynette Nani breathed new life into these typical tropes that we're used to seeing in sci-fi and put a new spin on things. It was a really refreshing read. It is going to be a series. I don't know when the next one's going to come out, but Whisper came out in the beginning of May, so it should be on your bookshelves now, so I recommend that you go out and get it as well. So that is all for my April and May wrap-ups, and now I will get a little bit into my June TBR. Like I said, I'm just going down my bookshelf and picking things up that have been on my bookshelf forever and trying to get through my massive TBR list. So these are books, some of them are older, there's one semi-new one, but a lot of these I just need to get through so that I can buy more books to put on my shelf. The first book on my TBR is, of course, Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the fourth book in the Throne of Glass series. It continues on with the story of Selena and Kale and Dorian and all of the characters that we've grown to know and love in the first three books. Really excited to pick this up, but again, it is a honking mass of book right here. I think this one might be even longer than Heir of Fire, so this might take me a month or so to get through like Heir of Fire did. But I'm super excited because again, I love Sarah J. Maas and I love everything she writes. And my goal is to finish the Throne of Glass series by the time the next one comes out this fall. The next book on my TBR is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This has been on my TBR since it came out back in January. I read the first few chapters. I'm having a hard time getting into it, so I'm hoping that the story picks up a little bit and it starts to move a little easier. I've heard mixed reviews about this, so I'm really kind of nervous to get to the end, but this has been on my TBR forever, and it's such a beautiful cover that I just can't wait to see what happens. This next book I've talked about before on a TBR and didn't get around to reading it, but it came out this year, and that is Zenith. I've talked about this before. Everyone on BookTube knows what this book is and probably has already read it, but I'm finally going to pick it up this month, this summer, hopefully before fall, because I really want to check this one out. This next one I've talked about before as well, and I just never got around to it, but I am making it a point to do so because It sounds so good. I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet, because I know I'm gonna love it. And that is The Wrath in the Dawn. A lot of people talk about how great this is. I think it's a duology. I have the second one upstairs too, so hopefully I can just go into it right after I finish this. But I'm hoping to get to it this month because I've heard fantastic things about it. And the last book on my TBR for June is to finish Stalking Jack the Ripper. I'm about a third of the way through. It's sort of slow and gory right now, and that's really all I can do to describe it. I expected it to be gory. I don't know that I expected it to be so slow. It is taking a while to sort of get into the meat of things. Yes, people have died. Yes, there's been gory things, but plot-wise, it's still going pretty slow. So I hope it picks up pretty soon, but the writing is fantastic, and I really do like to be sort of immersed into this historical fiction type of world. And I'm finishing it this month. Hopefully by the end of the week I will get this finished. So that is all for my wrap up and TBR videos. Let me know what's on your TBR for this month and this summer, and give me a big thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.